So on Wednesday, it's gonna be my 14th anniversary with my wife. And before we got married, if you would have told me once I get married, I'm gonna stay with the same woman for the rest of my life, I would have been like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's the plan, right? When you get married, you wanna stick with that person for the rest of your life. But looking back through these 14 years and everything we've been through, I'm surprised that she stuck by my side the whole time. Marriage is not as simple as you think it is. Yeah, you understand that once you get married, you're gonna have to make compromises and you're gonna have to consider someone else's opinions a lot more than you have in the past because she's your spouse. But you don't really understand how much to that extent you have to actually worry about those things. So first 10 years of our marriage, I feel like we went through a lot of bumps mainly because of me. I wasn't as mature as I thought I was gonna be. I focused too much on my problems instead of talking to my wife and spending time with her and trying to understand her and how we could build our relationship. So she put up with a lot of selfishness on my part for the first 10 years. And I'd like to think that I've improved and I've matured. I still have a lot more to go, but I'm glad she stuck by my side. And now we're kind of reaping the benefits of sticking through all the bad times, because now I feel like we reached a point where we understand each other better. And hopefully, moving forward, it continues on like this, where, we have a good marriage and we enjoy being around each other. And we have a similar perspective on life, on how we want to move forward. So I'm super grateful to have you in my life, Dalia. It took me a lot longer to mature than I thought it would. When you're younger, you think you know everything. You think life's going to be easier for you than it is for other people just because you're smarter or it's going to be different for you. But it took me a long time to realize that life is tough. And once you move out and you're on your own, you have to learn how to live with your spouse or live with other people, how to not just think about yourself all the time. So I think that was my problem. I did have some mental issues that I had to deal with, like depression, anxiety that really hit me once I became an adult. And I think a lot of it, besides nutrition, a lot of it had to do with just how difficult it is to live in the world. So you have to find your way, and if it's easy to get lost, I think communication is probably the biggest part of any relationship. A lot of people think they're communicating, but they're actually just arguing with each other, where if they could just sit down and have a conversation about the way you see things and the way they see things, you could probably be on a better page, on the same page, and move forward better without so many arguments and so much anger in the relationship. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't even consider, and they don't really make an effort to work on. Sometimes we expect other people to understand how we're feeling and what's going on through our mind without us even expressing it. So that's not reasonable for us to expect things like that. So I feel like I really have to focus on just communicating my viewpoint without feeling too emotional about it, so that the other person, whether it's my wife, kids, family, boss, whatever, they understand where I'm coming from, and we could resolve any issues that come up ahead of time before it gets to the point where we're just very angry and we can't handle it. No matter how successful I see a man be, if he has a bad relationship with his wife, his family, his kids, and he neglects them, I don't see that person as being successful. So, anybody could neglect one area of their life so they could succeed in another, and I don't think that's the right way to do it. So, there's times where, you want to make more effort in one area than the other, but you can't completely neglect it. And that's what I'm trying to do, just find a balance in my life where I need to handle the things to make my relationships better and to have a happier life, reduce stress, and I have to do that for other people as well. You have to live a balanced life, and you have to have multiple people that you can rely on, because if you just put all your worries and all your concerns into your marriage and rely on your spouse to give you relief from those things, it's not going to work out. So both people in a marriage definitely have to be balanced and not just rely on each other for everything. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And when they see that their spouse can't meet all their needs all the time, then it becomes problematic. And they don't realize that's not how it's meant to be. Going into a relationship, going into a marriage, yeah, you know, there's going to be some compromising you have to do, and you're going to have to think of the other person and consider their opinions. But you don't really understand until you're actually in the marriage how difficult it is to get your mind off of yourself and put other people ahead of you, whether it's your wife or kids or anybody else in your family, any situation where you have to put someone else ahead of you. It's really a mindset that you have to train. And you know, when you're just so self-absorbed on yourself and your own issues, it actually gives you more of a negative view of life. Whereas if you were to help other people, it lifts your mood right away. So those are things that I'm learning recently, and I'm trying to be more grateful for the things that I have in my life. Yeah, this year has been full of negativity with, you know, beginning of the year, Kobe passing away. He was my favorite sports athlete growing up. I watched every single game, and so he was one of my role models growing up. And so that was tough. And then my son broke his finger. His bone was literally sticking out of his finger. He has an appointment in October so that the doctor could literally bend his finger because it's really stiff now. He's gonna have to basically break the scar tissue that's inside so he could get flexibility. So that's gonna be tough. And then my wife had a medical procedure that she had to get done that she's still kind of dealing with now. But you know, life is what you make it. So yeah, this year has a lot of negativity and everything that's happening with discrimination and politics, and it's just crazy. But I've turned off all my social media. I've decided to just try to be positive, and I feel like it's really working for me. But yeah, I'm glad we finally got to the point now where we understand each other a lot better. Hopefully the worst is behind us. And if there is some bad things ahead of us, hopefully, you know, we have the tools now and the maturity to deal with it and get through it. I remember before I got married, when I was younger, I always told myself I probably wasn't going to get married till 30 years old. And that was mainly because I wasn't one of those guys that was just chasing after girls all the time. I guess I had a little bit of low self-esteem, and it just wasn't something I was doing. So I just figured, okay, that's probably what's going to happen. By the time I'm 30 years old, that's probably when I'll meet somebody. But it happened 10 years earlier. So we got married at 20 years old, and I'm glad we did. It's been 14 years. I don't know the percentages of how long marriages last nowadays, but I feel like that's probably longer than most people. So I'm very happy about that. I'm glad we're able to stick through the tough times. That's mostly on her. She was able to handle all my selfishness throughout the first decade of our marriage. So I feel like now we're to a point where we can move forward, and hopefully I keep maturing. So when I look at it in one perspective, I feel like it's gone by really fast. But then when I look at it through the perspective of the person I used to be when I first got married to what I am now, I feel like I've been through so much. I've matured so much. I still have a lot of maturing to do. It's going to be a never-ending process. I'm always going to try to work on myself and to be a better person and to be more compassionate towards others and understand them, especially my wife. You know, she's my partner for life, and I think a lot of guys and a lot of women, they treat their partners less respectful than they treat strangers. I guess it's the whole phrase of familiarity breeds contempt. For whatever reason, the ones closest to us, maybe we're the most comfortable with them, so we don't make the effort to try to improve our relationships. But it should be the opposite, you know. So when it comes to my wife, I'm trying to be more understanding, more patient, you know, doing little things like listening to her talk, like really listening to her, not just nodding my head. I think like I'm listening to her. I still have a lot of work to do in that area, because sometimes she starts talking and then my mind starts wandering, and then I realize I'm not even listening to her. So then I really have to sit down and focus, put my phone to the side, try to clear my mind, and give her the time she needs, because that's very important. So I just wanted to dedicate this video to Dalia, my wife. I'm 14 years, and I'm just so thankful that she's in my life, and hopefully we have another 14 years and the rest of our lives together, improving our relationship and marriage. And I'm excited to get out of town on Wednesday, finally go to Santa Barbara and hang out with her, just the two of us, for a couple of days. It'd be a good break from all this chaos in this world right now. I often imagine the two of us at the end of our lives, I don't know, 80, 90, hopefully we live over 100 years old, but just sitting on the porch, looking out in our front yard, just talking about different times in our lives, reminiscing, talking about our kids growing up, family members, and everything we've been through. And I can only imagine the things we'll be able to talk about at that time. But I look forward to eventually living my life, getting to that point, just being able to relax with my wonderful wife. So Dalia, I just have to say, I'm super excited you're in my life. We made it to 14 years. Hopefully we continue on for the rest of our lives. And I couldn't have picked a better partner in my life. Love you.